file because it has a double meaning. We're like, okay, yeah, all of the other subtitles have to do with like themes of justice and all and the courtroom and all that shit too. And then
And occasionally cases.
Yeah, and Dual Destinies, for instance, had was basically just tied to Athena, pretty much. Spirit of Justice here gives you a very blatant hint as to what the final case is going to be like, but we'll get to that in a moment. Uh, but if you want the again, as per usual, if you want the short, not spoiler version of the review, then it's pretty good, but it's flawed. It is still worth playing, and it's only $30, so it's not like an expensive game. It's also a really small game, I noticed.
In terms of its
Oh, size-wise?
overall.
Yeah,
It's like
Okay.
778 megs, I think.
Oh.
yeah.
It, oh wait, that might be exact. I was looking through my files earlier.
Like,
How
yeah,
long would you say the main story is?
like how long would it take to beat?
Yeah.
Um, assuming you're not thinking this is like the hardest game ever, which apparently some people do, which confuses me. It'd take about like, I'd say at most 30 hours.
Hmm.
At absolute most. Like, I would have to check my save data for how long I played it. I think I beat the main scenario in like 20.
Makes
So, I don't
sense.
know.
Yeah.
But considering that this is a visual novel, that's kind of to be expected.
Right.
But, whatever. So, okay, but yeah, if you want the short, not spoiler version, there you go. It is worth it, I do think. I mean, hell, I think the whole series is worth it, so, take that for what it's worth. But,
Right.
so, yeah, go get it. Good game. End. Past here is spoiler territory. You've been warned. Alright. So, what is the premise of Spirit of Justice? Like, what's the setup? Since, of course, I suck at explaining things like this, I again have pulled up a premise someone else has typed up, so thank you to this person, whoever did it. Alright. During During a phone call to his old assistant and friend Maya Fey, who is currently abroad in the kingdom of Kura-In on a training expedition, Phoenix Wright panics when the call is cut off abruptly by a scream. He quickly packs his bags and boards the next flight he can to Kurata-In, but finds nothing is wrong. With the situation under control, Phoenix takes an opportunity to tour the local area, but his 9-year-old tour guide, Albi Urguide, is suddenly arrested on the charge of murder. Phoenix decides to sit in on the young defendant's trial, but is shocked to find that their nation's court system does not use defense attorneys in their trials. Instead, the prosecution indicts suspects, and the court then relies on mystic oracles to presume the defendant's guilt or innocence. Unwilling to let such a ridiculous notion stand scrutiny, Phoenix leaps to his tour guide's aid and offers his defense, amid heavy resistance from both the audience and even the defendant himself. Also participating in the trial is the mystic princess Raifa Padma Kurain, in a unique role, not as a prosecutor, witness, or a judge, but to conduct the divination seance, a ceremonial dance that can channel the visions of the victim through the pool of souls. While Phoenix deals with the attorneyless justice system in Kurain, the other lawyers of the Right Anything agency, Apollo Justice and Athena Sykes, are left to handle business back home, with Apollo in particular learning to stand in court on his own. However, as Phoenix left for Kurain, Kurain comes to Apollo and Co. in the form of international prosecutor Nayuta Sadmati, a monk who sees attorneys as obstacles preventing murder victims from resting in peace. And the game just kind of goes from there, and essentially you have two different stories going on at once. You have one story that's following Phoenix, another following Apollo. If you're a big fan of Athena, I am sorry because she is a footnote in this game.
Who's Athena?
Like,
Oh,
you like Athena, Ryan?
I don't really know her.
Okay. You just sounded so disappointed.
Yeah, I felt like I needed to throw in an awe
Yeah.
to make everyone feel bad.
But so yeah, that's the basic setup, and that's actually a pretty interesting setup because it introduces a new mechanic into the series, and you have a new location to explore with one character while you have the old and familiar with another, at least in terms of concept, right? So that's pretty nice. Uh, now the story is probably going to be pretty long, so I'll get into that last. But so instead, I'll use this to kind of lead into gameplay. The gameplay is pretty standard fare for Ace Attorney. It basically has all the same stuff as Dual Destinies, and in that case, uh, there's a lot of the same ups and downs of it as I covered in my Dual Destinies review. Like, for example, the notes section is still incredibly worthless. Like, the only way that would ever be useful to you is if, like, you were playing the game and then you saved it and you put it down for, like, a month and then you came back to it and you were just like, what the fuck was I gonna do again?
At which point, you could have just kept your own physical notebook.
Pretty much. So, like, whatever. Because, granted, the investigation segments are not as linear as they were in Dual Destinies, but it's still pretty easy to do everything. It's not like the old games where fucking you had to go pixel hunting and shit. No, it's pretty simple to find everything you need during investigation. And then they also advertised, oh, you can fucking look at shit in 3D, and that's
Wow!
technically true.
It's not done that well, though.
like all it does is because like in the old games, because the DS screen's not that big, they had like two screens that you could scroll back and forth to examine stuff with. Here instead, during certain rooms, you can hit like left or right, and you'll like look at the room from a different angle.